It's story time.
My name is Sandy, and I love being sassy. My dog's name is Wanda, and I'm sassy too. Woof, woof, woof.
No, not those kind of stories. I mean, buyer stories. Hey everybody, let's talk about an interesting aspect of human psychology that is labeled social proof. Now, years ago, a good friend of mine, his name is Jim, he called me and said, Jeff, there's a movie that you absolutely have to see. It's called My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Hi. Did you want to see some brochures?
Now look, I had heard of this movie, and when I first heard of it, I just thought there is no way that that's a movie that I'm going to want to see. It just didn't sound like my sort of thing. But when my friend Jim called and said, trust me, you want to see this movie, that I did. And by the way, loved it. Now what happened there is an example of social proof. And social proof says this: people are inclined to do what people like them are inclined to do. So, for example, recently something very special happened in Colorado Springs. The city of Colorado Springs got their first In-N-Out burger restaurant. Now, as it so happens, the editor of the 5-Minute Sales Training, Paul Murphy, or Murph, lives in Colorado Springs. And the line on opening day was how long, Murph?
Yeah, the line was like 7.5 hours to get a burger at In-N-Out.
Now look, I'm a fan. I admit it. I love a good double-double animal style. But 7 hours? Why would anyone wait in line for 7 hours? Well, there's an answer to that question. You know why anyone would do that? Because everyone else is doing it. And back in high school, we called this peer pressure. In sales, we call it referrals. But it's all social proof. That's why one of the most important things that you can do is to collect buyer stories. All right, so for example, let's say you're selling new homes that back up to power lines. Now you can share all the data that you want. You can share all of your opinion as to why this is not a big deal. But if you were to collect the stories of people who had that concern and bought there anyway, that's how you're going to be of the greatest help to your new prospect. You want to be able to hear the stories of people who have actually gone before. That is that validation. That is that social proof. So I want to recommend to you that as a sales professional, one of the things that you need to do is that you need to become a great story getter and then a great storyteller. But there are some guidelines for telling a good story. In fact, there are 3 tests. Tests? Nobody said anything about tests.
It was my understanding that there would be no math during the debates.
All right, test number 1. Who is the story for? This is an important test because oftentimes as sales professionals, we hear a great story and we just want to tell a great story. It might very well be a great story, but is it a great story for this particular customer? So what you want to do here is not go out and collect one story. You want to collect a mess of stories. You want to have that tool chest full of stories. But you have to ask the question, who is the story for? Because in the story, you are not the hero. The product is not the hero. Your customer is the hero. And that leads us to test number 2. How does the buyer fit into the story? It's one of the things about great stories is that we can step into them. With a great story, we can feel like we were a part of that narrative. So it's up to you to ask the question, how does the buyer fit into this story? How would they naturally sense what it would be like to be in someone else's story? And then test number 3, what is the punchline? See, every great story has a moral or a punchline. To us, we call that a call to action. What is the story leading to? So as you're crafting your stories, one of the things that you want to do is ask, How would I utilize this story with a real customer? And then what would I ask them to do? Am I asking for any kind of a commitment, no matter how small? Am I asking them to understand something that I'm trying to explain through a story? Maybe it's just a nod of the head, but what's the punchline of the story? What is the call to action? So I want to encourage you to take some time this week to think of stories and situations that your previous buyers have gone through, and then practice crafting those into stories that you can tell your new prospects. Of course, we won't mention those past customers by name without their permission, right? All right, that's the assignment. Get out there and learn to be a good story getter, and then you can become a good storyteller. Hey, thanks for watching the 5-Minute Sales Training. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up, leave a comment, hit the subscribe button, do all those YouTube things. And if you want to get these episodes in your email box every Saturday morning, just head over to jeffshore.com and you can sign up there. Until next week, learn more, earn more.